Okay. So I suppose one of the differences, I think, between the Chinese nurseries and our nurseries are that the classrooms are quite small, and we have many teachers in the classroom, and each teacher can look after a few children at a time. I think in China maybe the classrooms are bigger and not so many teachers. Is that right? So as a result, the way that we organize it is a little bit different. I'm maybe going to exaggerate a little bit to make it a bit clearer. But if we have one teacher, like with older children, for example, in a primary school, if we have one teacher, all the children have to do the same thing at the same time, because it's the only way to organize it with one teacher. But when we have many teachers in the classroom, there can be different activities at the same time. So that's one of the big differences, I guess, in our philosophy and the way that we do nurseries in England compared to other countries or compared to a primary school. If you have any questions, you can always ask. And you can. I think your English is quite good. It looks as if your English is quite good, very, very good. But it's also okay if I use unusual words to ask me or to ask, because we're a team here. So that's the second difference, is that we're a team. So that's something that we have to get. You have to learn how to work together as well. It's a little bit different to a primary school teacher who might have one system, or a university teacher who has one system. Here, it's a different dynamic a little bit. So I thought it might be useful if the Chinese teachers who have some experience could just talk a little bit, maybe in Chinese, because I don't know if the next teachers will have good English like you or not. So if you could maybe just explain a little bit what teamwork is like and what's it like just the general organization of the classroom and the team. Are you okay to start, maybe, Dina? Or Juan?
Juan. In the general organization.
General organization, like working in a team and just explaining how it is.
对，因为它就是有 ，sorry， is that okay? Yes. 那因为它就有3门语言的老师嘛，所以老师都在那儿，有的时候你都搞不清楚究竟你要做什么，因为小孩都可以去做不同的活动，然后呢，你就要带着他做，所以整个教室你一进去乍一看，其实就不像国内，大家小朋友都规规矩矩做的，到处都是散乱的，所以你就而且你在，比如说你在和这个小朋友做活动的时候，本来是1对1，但是你的眼睛还要去看其他的小朋友，因为有任何的安全事故啊，什么隐患啊，每个老师都是要眼观八方的那种感觉。
Could you, before we continue, could you explain back in English what you've understood? Because I didn't understand the Chinese. and then I see, have you really understood the meaning as well?
She just told me that there are 3 languages in our classroom, and that's the big differences between China. And in China, the classroom is the students only can do one thing, just like you said, do one thing together with the order of teacher. But in here, the students can do different things. But for a teacher, there is a challenge that you should not only pay attention on these children who are next to you, but also all students. So that's maybe at first it is a little difficult, but I think from later or after some time, long times, or we will be better.
Yeah.
So she just told me some differences between China.
Thank you. Those are really important differences. And I'm really impressed at the way you were able to explain it back to me. Thank you. Can you add a little bit more?
好，就是我们可能会抽一些时间，如果没有专门的课他们的时候，我们会给他们唱歌，讲故事，然后可以加一些好玩的动作，比方说小毛驴小鞋颠呀，然后恭喜你呀，然 后那个唱歌、跳舞什么的，加一些好玩的这些东西，他们对中文会更感兴趣。然后那个，现在我们班孩子唱新年好还有那个恭喜恭喜，然后就挺喜欢这样子的。然后讲故事，我们也得想办法，纯说中文他们听不懂嘛，你得加一点那个，对，想办法简单一点，然后
she just said that when we teach sing songs or tell a story, we can add some body language gestures and to help them remember the Chinese, and it will make easier for them. Yes, and yeah, that's all.
Was that everything?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You're absolutely right. The gestures and the facial expressions are really important. With the younger children, young children are used to not understanding. So they don't understand words that their parents say. They're still learning. So it is not so stressful for them compared to an adult if they don't understand. For them it's normal to not understand. But they want to understand, so you can help them with gestures and with your facial expression. Also, where you look, children will follow where you're looking at. So if you were talking about water, instead of saying, would you like water, and looking at the child, you can look at the glass. So you can look at the child to get their attention, and then you can say, would you like water? So non-verbal communication, do you understand?
Yeah.
Is very important with this age group. Great, thank you. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah. 我想说的是，之前我们来这培训的是，我觉得最主要的2点就是他们的政策 policy， 一个是two teachers policy， 就是我们必须要有2个老师同时在场，然后就是 one person one language， 这点我觉得也挺重要的。而且就是因为我们已经带了一个10点的孩子了，这些孩子他们有一定的中文基础，所以你们在跟他们就是进行汉语沟通的时候，尽量用更多的汉语，比如说这个水，你就直接告诉他喝水，因为他们已经知道喝水是什么意思了，你就不用再说 water。然后还有一点就是，我们还学了手语 ，makton， 然后我们有就是啥还要 more， 然后你就可以直接边做手语边跟孩子们说还要，这样的话就会很轻松。然后我们还有就是手语培训时候的书，咱们培训过了，他们应该不会再培训了。如果你们需要的话，可以给你们看一下。That's it.
Thank you.
She showed that there is big differences that's between China is the policies. That, for example, one child one language and another is
One teacher.
one teacher one language, another is 另外一个是two teacher policies, because we can't stay with children alone, just alone. So with better two teacher together. And another is importance is the body language. They had been trained something about the body language, and so she don't know whether we will still have the body language training, but if haven't, they can lend us the books, show the books to us to learn by ourselves.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. So the type of gestures that she was talking about we call sign language in English. Not body language is everything, but if it's specific, these gestures are called sign language. And there are 2 types, there are 2 ways to describe it. For young children, it can sometimes be called BSL, British Sign Language, or we can call it Makaton. And they're almost the same, so it doesn't matter which training you have. For this age, it's the same. And that can be very helpful. If a child doesn't know the word in Mandarin for something, but they recognize the sign, and you do the sign at the same time as you speak, they can pick it up very quickly. And probably, if the other teachers use it, you will learn it quickly as well, because you can understand English as well. So if you see what they do, especially at lunchtime or if they're reading a story, then you can copy it. But it depends if they use it or not. Personally, I would love people to use it, the teachers to use sign language more, but it does take quite a lot of training, and we have a lot of responsibilities as a teacher, so it's not possible to do everything. And this would be good, but it's not compulsory. So, but it's useful. So if you see the teachers, please try to copy it and learn what you can. Okay, great. So we explained how we have many teachers in the classroom. I don't know if you know that we have shifts, so not everyone works the same time. Has that been explained to you already?
Yeah, they have told us they will turn.
Could you do it? Could you do it again, just so I have it for the video? And if you could speak, if you can speak a little bit louder, just to make sure we can hear it properly.
就是有早班和晚班，你们知道吧？一个是从8点到下午2点，中间有半个小时的休息时间；一个是从中午12点到晚上6点，幼儿园下班，中间也有半个小时休息时间，就是这样的。
And you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one of the big differences. And you have a different, shorter shift than any of the other teachers. So we're very lucky. And we're very lucky. We're very lucky to have you as well. Have any of the English or French teachers said something about your short shift? Has anyone made a comment or asked you why? Or?
Yeah, they asked us why at first. Then I explained. So it's just regarding to our contracts. That's different because we are from different institutes, and I think later they realized that we're not paid by the nursery, but we are paid by Confucius Institute. That's different. So then they are. I think maybe they understand now. But yeah.
I suppose as the program is less new, people will find it normal. When you started, it was the first time, and we had to learn how to work together as well. So now I think we've learned how to work together, I hope. Also we consider this to be education, even though we take children very young. And in the new school we will start at 6 months, and at LTO we start at 10 months, and then at Mars we start at 18 months. So all the nurseries change, slightly different ages, and the youngest children 1 year are maybe different to the youngest children the next year. Sometimes the ages change a little bit, but it doesn't matter what age they start. I still consider it education. So in other places, even in this country, but in different countries as well, sometimes they would consider it just to be care, to look after. And I think we do both. I think we do the care, we look after the children, but we also educate the children. It's just the doorbell, sorry. Just want to make sure they can hear.
We can cut.
We can cut, yeah. So, babies and children want to understand the world, and they're fascinated by the world. At the beginning, everything is surprising and interesting, and so they look, and everything that they see sort of counts as 1 point. And then if they see the same thing many times, they get sort of many points and they know it's important and they start to understand it. And that is the same for everything, for language, for food, for how people react, how people talk to each other. And so they're learning all the time. And a little bit later I might go into more detail. But because they're learning all the time, we have this amazing responsibility to be good role models. Do you understand role model?
Role model.
Do you understand role model?
Role model. Oh, role model.
How would you say that in Chinese?
榜样。
榜样.
榜样。
I wonder, is that on our list?
No.
Let's add that. I don't know if you have
She knows it.
if you have a list already. So every year we'll make this list a little bit better. Not today, but we would need you to understand all of these words. This will make your life easier if you learn these words. It doesn't have to be today, but there are some staff meetings, for example, are in English, and we also have inspectors, and they ask you questions in English. So there's some minimum things that you need to know about in English. Anyway, so we've got this list, and this is an important list. So we're role models, and the way we behave is very important because we shape their values. We teach values as well as giving them food and teaching them Mandarin. So we are human. I know we're human. And it's easy to be patient now, here. In a busy day, with lots of children, it can be more difficult to stay calm and be our perfect teacher energy. We can't be like that all the time, but we must try. So I don't expect anyone to be perfect. And I make a lot of mistakes in life. So it's okay if you make mistakes. But we try to learn from the mistakes. That's an important value that we have as a nursery. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay not to know. But it's important to learn. And it's the same with being a role model. You can't be a perfect role model all the time. And the teachers in your classroom will not be perfect role models all the time. But it's important that we try our best. And that's something else that you will notice. In your classroom, some teachers have more experience than other teachers. And a teacher who might be very good in one type of activity or at one time during the day might not be as good at a different activity. So when you're looking at the teachers, it's okay to think, I want to copy this teacher for this, and maybe this teacher for a different situation. Not everything that you see is the perfect example to copy. So I just want to remind you of that we're human as well. You're human, we're also human, and the teachers, everyone has this real, there's a reality. So you're not too young, I suppose, but sometimes we have very young apprentices. They're very early trainers. So not quite a volunteer, but normally they've left school and it's their first job. And we notice sometimes they would copy the teacher who they were most friends with. But that doesn't mean that that's the best teacher to copy. Sometimes the person that they were most friendly with was another very young teacher. It's quite common. We're the same age, we're friends, I'll copy you. It's easy for me to ask you questions because we're friends. But maybe this other teacher doesn't have very much experience. So probably don't copy the youngest teachers. Probably. It depends. I can't think in your classrooms, and every classroom is different, but that's just important that you remember that. We want to be good role models for the children, but I suppose we're role models for each other, and we should choose our role models carefully, not just if we're friendly with them. Does that make sense? Is there anything you want to add to the kind of how to learn from other teachers or on this topic? Or is that enough?
What I want to say is, in my classroom, all of the teachers are quite young. They are full of passion. They are ambitious. Is that word right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite nice.
Yeah, they love children quite well, and we also learn from each other. Such as the teachers in my classroom, they study Mandarin with me, such as Melissa.
Could you do this in Chinese?
Yeah. 我们班级的老师各种技能会互相学习，比如说我们在做一些 activity， 在做一些活动的时候，会用到剪纸，还有折纸，然后他们就会说，哇，你这个怎么做的这么好，可以教我吗？然后你就可以去教他们。然后有的时候，他们处理孩子们一些不良行为的方式，你们也可以学习。就是比如说一个孩子很调皮，他抢了另外一个孩子的玩具，这个时候你就要看其他的老师是怎么调节两个孩子之间的关系，去怎么开导这个孩子，去怎么教这个孩子以后不要做这样的事情。That's it.
Okay, good, thank you. Can you explain what you understood, or right teacher? Do you want to explain?
Okay. In the classroom, they always learn each other. All of the teachers learn from each other, and not just like when they paper cutting and do some activities like paper cutting and ceramic. How to say the papers? I don't know that words. I think the more important is how to educate the child when he make mistakes. Yeah. Levin said she learn from the other teachers. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. And it's okay to ask each other questions as well from the other teachers. You can learn by copying, but you can also ask them questions. And you have to decide when is the right time. If a child is crying and the teacher is busy, it's the wrong time. But also, it's always a little bit busy. So you also sometimes just have to ask. And it's okay if you ask a question and you don't understand the answer. You can ask the question again, and you can ask the question again. And if tomorrow you're confused, just ask another question. We know you're new, the team know you're new. They're busy, but they were new one day as well. They had to learn. And we know this is a big cultural change for you, and it's okay. So don't worry about asking too many questions. It's important, it's the only way you can learn. And actually, the team want you to learn. So even if they're busy, they want you to improve as quickly as possible. So don't be too shy about asking for explanation and asking for information. And then maybe we can expect, each classroom has a slightly different routine, but in general, the children arrive. They don't all arrive at the same time. So the first children arrive at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then maybe at 10 past 8 and 20 past 8 and half past 8 and 9 o'clock and 9:15 and 9. So they arrive gradually, not like a primary school that everyone starts at the same time. And then we have a snack in the morning, and we have activities, and sometimes we'll go to the playground or the park, depends which nursery, and then there's lunch, and then the children sleep in the afternoon, they'll be outside and be activities, and we have afternoon tea, and then more activities, and the children start to go home gradually, not all at the same time. So that's like a very, very simple explanation of the day. There's a lot more detail we can talk about later. And then also there's the the routine of the year, if you want. So we have many children who start in September because the oldest children leave and they go to primary school. And so in September we have a lot of new children who start. But even during the year, children can change. So maybe a family moves house and so they change nurseries. Sometimes a family changes country, so children changes. Maybe the mother has another child and so she stops working for 1 year. So maybe they don't pay for the nursery for the older child, maybe she has them both at home. There can be many different reasons why the children might leave before August. And so if a child leaves, then you have a new child who comes to the nursery. And in Crouch Hill, it will be a new nursery, so I suppose every month we will have new children who start gradually until the nursery is full. So when a child arrives, we call that settling in. On our list? Maybe. So it should be on the list, on the second page. So settling in, how do you... Settling in? How do you pronounce that?
适应阶段，
适应阶段。
这是他们自己翻译出来的，这个是。
So there'll be a settling in, and it's a process. It doesn't happen like this. It's a gradual process. So the child will do maybe only 2 hours on the first day, and the parent will be there. And then gradually they become longer and longer, and we try to help the child feel confident and happy. But often the children cry a lot during this period, and so we have to be very patient with them, and they just need support and love, and they need us to be there for them. And then hopefully they become more confident and they're able to do more activities and enjoy and make friends. And so that process is the most intense in September, when we have many new children at the same time and many children change classrooms. But it can happen gradually through the year as well. So in a simple way, there's like one typical day and a little bit of the year. Would you like to talk a little bit more in detail, maybe you could talk a little bit more in detail about just a day? So I gave very simple explanation, but maybe you can talk about the energy or how you have to organize yourself, or just in a normal day.
关于那个健康的
Just
事
speak
情。
a bit loudly for the cameras.
今天的那个旅之前怎么度过的？
我Chinese，我基本上有4天是12点到6点，有1天是8点到2点，然后我说我跟你说上午，我说下午班吧，就是我去的时间是帮着他们吃饭，然后那个会做辅助。有一个老师主要给他们盛饭，如果你要帮忙的话，你要戴上帽子和手套，然后孩子吃完饭以后上他们睡觉，然后让他们哄睡觉，然后起床之后3点就都起来了，然后会有一个小零食的时间，然后就是有一个 third time，就是老师给他们讲故事啊，或者是唱歌啊，大概15分钟的来的时吧，然后然后就又 tea time，然后就出去玩，最后的1个半小时是在户外。如果冬天的话会很冷，然后但是这个跟孩子接触是幼儿园所有孩子，这个时间你就可以用做游戏啊，或者讲故事啊，这些中文教学都是在这样的时间。如果没有专门我们的third time的话，就是各种零散的时间，你可以拿他在玩的时候，什么牛啊，比如说牛，然后水，然后重复，但是我觉得首要的是，你跟孩子建立感情，哪个孩子他在你这里能得到爱，得到温暖类似这样的，会帮助你的工作，我觉得挺好的。
Okay, thank you. Can you explain back to...
she showed us her one day her most is the afternoon routine, and when she arrived there, she just assist the children to have lunch and then sleep, then snack time, and then cycle time, tea time, and some outdoor activities. And she thinks the most important thing is to establish a relationship with the children, establish some let them know, can feel our love or feel our care to the children, and the children will believe us, will trust us, yes, and then start learn. We can teach them some simple Chinese if we go to outdoor and just say words and see what and say what. Okay.
Great, thank you. So that was the afternoon. And maybe you could explain our morning?
Yeah. 我早上呢是8点钟就到幼儿园了，最开始孩子还没来，但是需要 set up，就是需要把所有的就幼儿园的都要布置好，而且我还有一个任务就是要做一个叫 risk assessment 风险评估的一个单子。其实，这个事情就相当于是要整理所有东西，把什么尿片啊，幼儿园的一些什么东西都要检查一遍，然后没有的东西都要补上，相当于是一个后勤。然后孩子慢慢来了的时候，你把你的那个做完了之后呢，那个挺花时间的。我不知道你们在 LTU 做不做，我在 Mars 要做。做了之后呢，孩子慢慢来了的时候，我觉得我们8点到9点是叫 free play， 他们自己玩。但是这个时候适合孩子建立关系的最好时候，因为老师也来的比较少，孩子他愿意跟你玩，所以那个时候我就会和他们做活动，然后孩子开心了，那么这一天他可能都会跟着你，你就教学的机会就来了。然后到9点半到他们会有一个 circle time， 那个时候其实你更多的时候是像一个助教一样，老师会讲他们的内容，然后我在旁边就听着，或者说跟孩子反正就让他们不要乱动之类的。circle time 之后，他们就是 work cycle， 就是要选择蒙特梭利的活动，或者是可以去读书。那个时候其他老师可能会给你安排任务，让你带着小孩做什么。反正你做活动的时候，你都尽量可以给他们进入式的讲一些中文，比如说你拿剪刀啊、剪刀、胶水，他们其实都听得懂，可以猜得出来。反正然后我们现在幼儿园变成它有一个叫 free float， 就是随便玩，整个幼儿园打通了，它可以在不同的教室里面乱窜，就是从11点到11点45，但是我的工作时间就是从11点到11点半，它可能会分配你到不同的地方，可能是在花园，可能是在楼上的幼儿园，可能是在楼下楼上的教室，可能是在楼下的教室。这个时候反正就是给你什么任务你就做，你就观察，然后孩子需要你的时候就教中文的机会就来了。你最开始不要太，我觉得他如果在专心做他的事情，就不要去打乱他。你就然后趁机而动。我不知道我讲清楚了吗？讲清楚了。然后11点半到12点就是我的休息时间，12点半回来到1点是他们的午餐时间，1个小时。1个小时我一般如果老师够的话，我就是 floating， 我就是他需要倒水啊、端盘子什么就是我的。如果老师不够，我就是要 serving， 就是要给孩子给孩子什么？给孩子投食投喂，反正就是要坐在桌子上跟他们一起吃，给他们分菜什么的。11点然后1点到2点就是他们的午睡时间就是不是2点钟我结束嘛，一般是1点到3点午睡时间。但是我的任务呢，有的时候我们就会和他们一起去公园，去公园的路上就可以唱中文歌了，然后孩子一起玩。 然后如果不出去呢，在教室里面待着，有的时候如果其他老师没有时间，我就会给他们讲故事。我们有很多中文书讲故事，他们就都非常喜欢，而且就是讲的绘声绘色的话，他第二次他都会讲了。或者是你可以通过看电脑给他们放一些歌，放一些动画片，中国的。小猪佩奇中文版，但是放短一点，不能放得太久，3-4分钟啊。2点钟，要么有的时候如果是要上去的和还陪睡的话，就会陪睡到2点钟，我就结束了，就跟他们说再见，就结束了。It's a long story, sorry.
Well, much quicker than a real day, though.
Especially. Try to be very detailed.
Great energy. I enjoyed it.
Hard to feedback, right?
Yeah, lots of feedback, huh? What do you remember?
Okay. First, she need to do set up, and then is the risk assessment. He need to tidy up. If something is not enough, they will add. Yeah. And then is the circle time, but this is Montessori activities was led by other teachers, and the Chinese teacher may be the assistant, and if help them manage, make the child calm down. Yeah. And you also need to speak Chinese. And then there is the free float. Maybe they will stay in classroom and or play in the garden. And in this time, if child needs you can speak. If you can speak to them and or help them. If they don't need your help, you just take care of them, look after them, and then it's the lunch time. Sometimes we need to serving and help feed the children, and sometimes just be the assistant. You don't need to feed them. Okay. And it's a massive work, I think. And then if it's the sleeping time. If they don't want to sleep, maybe they can play in the park, and then you can teach them sing Chinese songs and or tell stories. And when you tell story, you can use the body language or your face language, and it will make them very happy and memorize more words. Okay, thanks.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything you wanted to add about the talking, or if they need?
I also have a bad brain. Yeah, when I said like if they don't need you, I mean if they are concentrating on their activity, you don't need to trouble them, interrupt them. You can just stay there and observe what they need and what you can say, something related to Chinese or Chinese art culture, that you can just grasp that chance and ask. And every time, I don't know whether it's a good way, but I try to ask them to speak in Chinese, to ask me for help every time. Now, I think I've already told you, it's very easy for them to say, please help me in Chinese now.
That's great. That's great. That's right, it's an interesting balance. We're going to talk about language in the next topic, but it's an interesting balance between we want to give them as much Chinese as possible on the one hand. The other balance is the concentration of a child is really special. We want to teach children to be able to concentrate for more and more and more time. And if we interrupt them, then we break that concentration. And if they're doing something it can break their concentration, and also maybe their confidence to be independent. We're also teaching children to be independent and to do things. So if they are successful at being engaged in an activity and we interrupt them, they're not getting that experience to do it on their own, which is very important. But we also want them to hear lots of Chinese. So those are the two things we have to have in balance. Both the truth.
I can add some about my thing because at first.
Can you do it in Chinese?
Yeah，最开始的时候我会很焦虑，因为你去新来的，好像如果你去观察的话，好像什么事都没做，就会我自己感觉我就是很害怕其他老师会挑剔什么，好像你没做事儿。但是后面我就发现不能太焦虑，你不能说在那你就必须得做事，孩子穿鞋你就得去帮他穿鞋，孩子在做事你就一定得帮他。其实你坐在那儿，你也是在学习，也是在参与他。坐在他身边可能都是不一样的，但不一定非得用言语啊什么的，一定要去怎么样？这是我自己感受，就不用太焦虑。
What did you understand from that?
Yeah, she added that there is as when she was a fresh teacher in the nursery, she always worried about what's happened if she just observe and didn't do anything. What's the other teacher will say maybe some people will think you're lazy or just but later she get that a teacher needn't do too much. There is an important thing is that the children do. If you observation is a thing, is an important thing. That's we can. I think the important thing she wants to express is don't interrupt the students' concentration, and if they can do by themselves, just let them do by themselves. We just look after them.
Can I? Yeah, I think the most important thing is you educate a child all the time, and even if you just sit beside the kids, and you it's not only you teach Chinese and but also some activity and gestures. You educate the students.
Yeah. Good. It's interesting. Just on a little bit of vocabulary, you said students, and you said kids.
Oh yeah.
And
Sorry.
we always say children.
Children.
We always say children.
Yeah.
Because students for me is a little bit older,
Okay.
and kids are playing outside. But children is little bit more respect, little bit. And then when you were describing the routine of the day before the language, you mentioned the circle time.
Yeah.
And I think you're very good at the circle time, aren't you?
Not very good. I want to try learn, but with the other teachers, I think I have to improve.
But thank you for your email, by the way. I think at the beginning, a year ago, less than a year ago, we launched the Chinese program. And at the beginning, I think we were just very, very gentle because it was a change in the nursery, and I think at the beginning nobody did any circle times in Chinese, is that right?
Yeah.
But actually it is possible to do, even in a Montessori classroom, it's possible and probably important to do circle times in Mandarin as well. So now that the program is developing a little bit, I think it would be good to introduce circle times. Can you talk just a little bit in Chinese about a circle time, like what it is, how you prepare, how you do it?
Yeah，我会给他们讲书，然后刚开始的时候孩子听不懂，然后就跑了，然后但是得想办法加一些动作啊、语言呀，然后熟了以后，这本书他们就更有兴趣了，就大概知道你讲的什么了，然后他就会更有兴趣，然后还是就是我们幼儿园新买了一些书，因为这边的亚马逊和中国儿童绘本特别少，然后那个没什么可讲的，然后就他们就没什么好弄的，然后就是唱儿歌，孩子们特别感兴趣，他们回家唱，家长也很喜欢，然后那个然后就是你可以再想办法有一些其他的活动，什么汉服呀，或者是那个剪纸啊类似的，我们可以只要给我们时间，只要有我们就可以想办法。如果没有，那只有零星的时间太少了，我们一定要想办法多争取circle time。
Thank you. Yes. Can you explain it a little?
About circle time, you can tell stories, but you should add some gestures and how to say it, not just the common Chinese. You should use emotion, add your emotion, yeah, and then you can teach them sing songs. And the children love this, and they will sing Chinese songs when they back home. And you can also use some different style like paper cartoon or about Chinese traditional custom. You can introduce to children. Yeah, there are many styles, I think.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. And in Chinese, can you explain how it is to have a group of children? Is it easy to have them concentrate, or do they try to play or run away? Or how is it? How the kind of keeping it as a group? How does that work?
假如他们走了的话，我会想到立刻换一个他们更感兴趣的话题，或者是好玩的。可以拉着手，围一圈，这样很多小朋友都愿意加入进来。然后我们唱歌，然后转圈，然后就是尽量吸引注意力吧。但是你不可以说你也过来呢，那不行。
And you've assisted obviously many circle times before in the penguin.
Yeah, because LTO only one memory teacher here, so maybe my speech it may be a little longer. Because they all work in LTO, so I'll start my speech. 在每天早上8点的时候，我是早班也上，晚班也上，因为是2班倒，早班上一周，晚班上一周，就是我可以把每天一整天的情况都讲给你们，就是每天早上8点的时候要到教室里，就是他说8点钟上班，不是你8点钟到幼儿园，是8点钟要在教室里，因为有的家长他8点钟的时候，8点之前就已经把孩子送来了，所以你8点的时候一定要到教室，然后也是从8点到9点半这段时间是孩子们自由活动的时间，这段时间要有老师铺床，然后还要陪孩子玩，然后在9点到9点半的时候，我们有小零食，这个时候一般就是牛奶和水果，这个不强制所有的孩子都必须去吃，但是如果有孩子想吃，比如说有的孩子没吃早餐，你可以叫他，你想吃一点水果或者你想喝牛奶吗？然后到9点半，我们就开始 circle time，然后这段时间一般都是法语老师或者英语老师唱歌，就唱 tout le monde s'assoit， 唱类似这样的歌，大家都坐在地毯上，然后这段时间会有其他的老师组织孩子们在地毯上坐好，然后你可以在这段时间帮助其他的老师维持纪律，就是比如说孩子们乱跑的时候，你可以告诉孩子们过来，我们一起做 circle time， 然后当其他的老师做 circle time， 比如说他们在唱歌的时候唱那个 If you're happy I know it got it has， 如果他们唱完了英语和法语，你可以申请跟老师说我可以唱中文版的吗？这个时候老师不会拒绝你的，如果你可以唱中文版，你一定要跟老师申请。然后还有就是尽量多的加入中文的环节，因为之前我们是第一批来这儿的，很多环节还不是很完善，但是逐渐的其他的老师也意识到这些情况，就比如说在做一些 activity 的时候，我们会说这边是一个法语老师，旁边会做一个中文老师或者是一个英文老师，两个老师搭班儿sorry， 然后就是10点左右的时候我们会出去 outdoor activity， 因为我们没有花园，我们没有院子，所以我们要出去走一走，或者时间够的话我们会去公园。LTO 分有2个公园，一个大公园一个小公园，基本上是一个老师最多能带3个孩子，然后我们有一个牵孩子的小绳，为了防止孩子走丢，因为有的时候出去玩的孩子太多了，我们不可能每个孩子都拉着手，然后等到11点半之前我们要回到教室，这个时间每个教室不一定，因为我们要把那个回教室的时间高峰期错开，因为我们有 toilet， 我们有的孩子要上厕所，有的孩子要铺体，如果所有的孩子都挤在厕所里，真的是非常危险的。然后Lion 那个班级可能会回来的晚一点，然后是 Penguins， 然后 Bunnies 就不用说了，因为 Bunnies 基本上就是老师推着那个推车出去，然后从外面回来以后，第一件事情要是去洗手间，有需要换尿布的孩子要换尿布，然后要洗手，回到教室以后，我们可以再分批做一下circle time， 就是之前没出去的孩子在教室里是一个小组，出去回来的孩子一个小组，因为如果把两组的孩子混在一起的话，老师们就会乱了，这个孩子换没换尿布啊，那个孩子有没有洗手啊，就是这样的，所以我们要分组in different teams， 然后大概所有的孩子都冷静下来了，都准备好了以后，我们就开始吃饭。午餐时间基本上是从11点45左右一直到2点15之间，回来的早一点就吃得早，回来的晚的话就吃得晚一些。然后吃完饭我们要帮助他们擦脸、擦手，sorry。然后有的孩子们因为他们不穿尿布了，吃完午饭睡觉之前要去上厕所。但是我们这个房间比较少一些，这个房间是3、4个左右。然后，中午睡觉，早班的老师基本上是从12点半左右到1点半左右可以去休息，午休的时间是半个小时。然后12点的时候，晚班的老师就来了，然后这个时候2个中文老师有2个小时的交叉时间。然后我们可以做一下沟通，就是上午你教孩子们什么了，然后下午你可以带孩子们做什么，就这样的。然后，午睡时间基本上是从12点半到2点左右，然后随着孩子们年龄的逐渐增长，他们睡的时间会越来越短。因为我之前刚来的时候，基本上孩子们是2点半左右才会醒，但是现在1点半有的孩子就醒了。然后他们起来以后，你可以陪他们玩一会儿，然后可以帮他们穿衣服，然后有的孩子需要去厕所，因为我们班级的孩子们正处于小班到大班的过渡阶段，所以有的孩子们需要做那个potty 的练习 potty training， 然后这个时候你就可以教孩子们要自己学会上厕所，如果有想上厕所的感觉要喊老师。然后当我们把孩子们衣服都穿好了，这个时候3点左右我们要出去溜达，因为我们没有 playground， 所以我们就要去公园，或者是就是在路边围着幼儿园 走一圈，或者去 Waitrose， 我们会有各种体验，我们会拿着小篮子，然后拿着我们房间教室的经费去 Waitrose 购物，就是告诉孩子们，我们要怎么买东西，要尊重收银员，然后出去的时候要注意安全，有的孩子们正在蹒跚学步，他们走路不是很稳，所以就是我们在观察路况的时候，还要注意孩子会不会有孩子因为6号撞到树啦，会不会有孩子因为扭脚一下就摔倒了，这个时候我们要打起12分的精神。然后outdoor activity 结束以后，我们就回去吃下午茶，然后大概是在4点左右到4点半左右，然后这个时候4点半左右就开始有家长接孩子们了。如果孩子们吃完下午茶以后也是自由活动的时间，你可以陪着孩子们玩，然后做一些 physical activity， 或者是玩橡皮泥，然后还可以做一些抢凳子的游戏。但是我们房间放视频不允许放，然后我刚开始去的时候找了中文歌，因为我觉得教室里太吵了，放一些中文歌被制止了，不可以。但是他们可以放法语歌。对。
视频放吗？
视频不能放。
没有，那他是怎么放？手机放？
用电脑，每个房间配一个电脑，然后还有 iPad。iPad
放录音的歌还是视频的歌？
录音没有视频，我们不允许给孩子们看很长时间的电子设备，会损伤眼睛。然后还有就是。我再想一下，本没记忆。
来接孩子的。
对，然后来接孩子的时候，到5点半的时候，我们房间就开始tidy up。基本上所有的老师，英语老师和法语老师，他们要去做 feedback， 所以这个时候所有的tidy up就是我们来做。然后就差不多了，到6点的时候就可以走了。That's it。
这样看一下。你可以说一下，你这样看下来全部的，你用来教中文的时间有多少？
我用来教中文的时间就是见缝插针，只要能跟孩子们在一起。之前我就觉得我没有一个正常的教室，然后没有专门的时间去进行中文教学，那我来这的意义是什么？但是后来我发现。只要跟孩子们在一起，随时都是课堂。只要你想教，就能教好。而且你跟孩子们建立了良好的情感联系之后，他们会非常喜欢你。哪怕你说的内容他们听不懂，他们也会用英文答非所问的跟你聊天，一点都不尬。就非常可爱的。
但是我们还要正确。不是，人家刚刚已经解释了，因为我们是第1年，所以我们不会有那个东西。但是他们现在会不一样了，现在会变了。
而且我们的房间一直在调整。巴黎斯那个房间相对来说，就是因为孩子们都比较小嘛，他们说母语的时间也很少，基本上都不怎么说话，基本上就是这样的。然后Lion那个房间我们有桥。然后那个老师非常 nice， 他非常善良，非常温柔。如果你有什么需求的话，可以跟他讲。如果你说，如果你有什么好的点子，你有什么 idea，你想什么做什么 activity， 你一定要提前跟你的那个同事说。比如说我们同事每周5或者周4的时候会做 next week's planning， 这个时候有的同事就会问你，你下周想做什么 activity， 然后你就可以提前想好了告诉他。如果他问你的时候你还没有想好，就觉得有点尴尬，或者是你没有把中文教学当回事儿。而且活动你可以根据每个季节的变化去做一些活动，比如说春天的时候我们做了那个traditional Chinese fans。we made traditional Chinese fans for children. We bought it's a round one, and the children can paint on the fans, and they take back home. And when the summer comes, it's really hot. They can.
The one we did by
100%. It's so beautiful. 扇子在亚马逊上。我们每个房间都有每个房间的那个 资金。如果你需要什么的话，你可以跟你的 room leader 说，或者跟那个 manager 说，他们都会支持你的。
真是和我们的很不一样的。
因为我们幼儿园大，中文老师多。Finished.
Thank you. I heard you say room leader. Do you know what a room leader is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good, well that was a lot of information.
Yeah.
What do you remember?
She just show her day, her whole day to us. From the morning to, because sometimes she is the morning walk, sometimes it's afternoon walk, so she showed both from the morning from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Some is similar, but some is a little different. So I say some. Here are something she said. It's important that, for example, if we go outdoor, we should pay attention to the safe, especially the traffic. And some children can't walking very good, so we should take care of them. And then, if when we back to the room, with better theme by ourselves or other ways. So if don't use the video or some electric development. So some that's the time. Keep the time limits, because if we want thing we can buy ourselves. And
I'm not sure I understand that completely. Can you explain it to me?
so that's
It's about the computer and the iPad.
yeah.
In our room, our teachers not allowed to show too many pictures or videos to children from the screen because
Yes,
yeah.
on the screen.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, and he had important is if we as first we will think we have no time to teach Chinese, but then she realized that just it is all. In fact, we teach all whole day long. Just along with the children, we teach whole day long. So we have no. That's it. This is a big difference between China, because between China the class is in a classroom, and we have a class time, and then. If we want to make some activities, we should tell the room leader or other teachers in advance, and we can make some activities according to the season or the season change or something like festival. And if we want to buy something for the children or for the activities, we can tell the room leader.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think it's what I found really important as well is so you're busy to speak Mandarin to the children, but also I think we are trying to be the most open to the world as we can, and you can bring your culture as well. So I was there when you bring, your traditional Chinese music instrument.
Oh yeah.
And I saw all the decoration you've done at LTO for the Chinese New Year and your fences, and it's like really good moment for the children, and sharing your culture is I think for me really important and part of your role as a Chinese teacher in the nursery.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think I said earlier that this is the perfect age for children to learn a new language. And I think language is important because it helps you speak to more people. And I honestly believe if every child in the world could speak more languages, that in the future there would be not as many wars as now. Normally, one country does not declare war on another country if they speak the same language. And if you can study a foreign language and learn the culture and learn to enjoy and respect the people and the culture, then you don't want to have war between your two countries. So I really think the work we're doing, that you are going to be doing, is really important. And it's exciting. Like, I've been to China and I think it's an amazing country and I wish I could speak it better. And I've been to other countries where I do speak the language and it's easier for me to really enjoy the country and the culture because I understand more. And that's exciting. It makes my experience of life, of the world, bigger. And that's a good thing. Like, you've come to London and you're going to have a bit of a culture shock and things will be different. And maybe some things are more difficult and maybe some things are better. But when you go back to China, your experience of life will be just bigger and richer than it is now. And, of course, languages help with work in the future. It's funny, if we think of our bunnies or our penguins, how young they are. To think, oh, might help them in the future for their work. We can't imagine them working. But hopefully they'll be able to work in the future, you know. So it's good for their culture, it's good for their life experience, it's good for their work, it can help reduce the chances of war. These are really important reasons. And yeah, it's language and culture. Okay, are there any questions so far?
I want to know if we teach Spanish.
Spanish?
Spanish.
The bunnies?
Because they are very young, little children. Yeah, how to teach them?
How to teach the bunnies?
Yeah, because they're too young
Very
and
young,
to learn a language. I'm not sure because I never.
Okay. Perfect questions, almost as if it was a plan, but it wasn't a plan. But my next topic is the language policy, and I think we will talk about that. So I'll start talking about the language policy. So the first thing that you've already heard today is we have the one teacher, one language policy. So this is really important, and especially at the beginning, you might be tempted to speak a little bit in English because your English is great, and if the child doesn't understand, maybe you think it's easier if you use some English words. But that would be a big mistake, because if you start speaking to the children in English, then they have no reason to listen to you in Mandarin, because they know you're just going to repeat it in English later. And then when they hear it's Mandarin, they stop listening. So then they will learn nothing. So it's really important that you stay to English. That you stay to Mandarin. It's really important that you stay to Mandarin. And actually, it's normal for children, for different people to do different things, or in different situations for the rules to be different. They know, for example, in the park they can run, but in the kitchen they're not allowed to run. So they understand that in some situations you behave in one way, in another place you behave in a different way. And so it's normal for them, this teacher speaks one language and this teacher speaks another language. They're not going to be confused. It's normal. Different things, different times, different people, different behavior. So also remember that it's okay for them not to understand. Maybe it's more stressful for you than for the child. So just stay in Mandarin, one person, one language. The way that we teach, I suppose your question is a little bit about the way that we teach. It's going to be totally different to how we teach an adult. And that's true for the younger children in the bunnies. It's also true for the older children in the lions, to be honest. With older children or university adults, we can give, like for you, we've given you a list. You can't do this with a child. In primary school, secondary school, maybe we can have flashcards but this type of exercise is much better for older children. For the younger children, actually everything is a lesson. So just the way that you talk normally, the children will start to learn. Even if two teachers talk together in Mandarin, if the child is not concentrated on an activity, the child might just look and will learn. So they learn by listening, they absorb first, and then later they will start to speak. So there is a time difference. Whilst if I were to teach you a new word in French, I could teach you the word now and you would repeat it now, and then maybe you remember it. But with a child, maybe you say it now, you say it tomorrow, you say it the next day, and maybe later they say the word. It's a completely different way of learning a language. So first they have to hear it and absorb it. And for them it is normal to listen to adults and not understand. Sometimes they don't understand any of it, even in their own home language. Maybe their parents are talking to each other about something serious and they don't understand any. But that's okay. It's normal for them. So that's the first thing that we must remember. It's normal for them to look, to observe and absorb. That's the first stage. The second stage is I'm going to explain the language theory with an iceberg. So I'm going to show you a picture. Just give me one moment. Do you know what an iceberg is? Sorry, I just need to find it on the...
也没有，就是你正常怎么说就怎么说，就可以语调放，语速放慢，语调稍微夸张一点，就是不要改变词汇。我的，他给我们的观点是，词汇越多对他越好，对，
就是不能够改变他的我们平时成人的用法。
对他之前的说法就是你日常用的，对，
我昨天看视频上的一个。I just asked her that if should we speak Chinese, speak the normal word, because in China some parents will speak the baby's language, just change the word. The adults won't say, but children will say that. For example, some word will say 吃饭, 吃饭, eat something, but the children will say 吃饭饭 or 长高高, just like it's the baby's language. So the teacher, so we should keep say the word or say some sentence normal, just like speak to the adults, right?
So I think for us it's important to the way of talking that you're describing, we call parent ease, as if it's a language that parents use. And the most important thing is the tone of voice and the attitude and the energy.
Yeah.
We're trying to show the child that we're giving them attention and we're trying to encourage them. So in the best scenario, the best way is to use the adult word, but say it with the child's energy.
Yeah.
And sometimes parents go a little bit more and make it into like a baby word.
Yeah.
And with the very youngest children, maybe that's okay. But really we're trying to teach them words. But the energy, the attitude is what's really important there. And that's something we can learn. Testing my phone's ringing, I'm just going to check it's still recording. No, it stopped, okay. Okay, now we resume. So, I'll talk a little bit about the iceberg theory of language. So, how do you say iceberg in Mandarin?
冰山理论.
Very nicely pronounced. 冰山理论, or something like that. So, if we, I don't know if we can tell on the video, but if we have the water, and we've got the sun at the top.
Okay.
So with an iceberg, we have a lot that's underneath, and only a little bit that's visible.
Okay.
Do you know that about an iceberg? That feels something you know already?
You can explain.
So the iceberg doesn't happen in 1 second. An iceberg takes a long time to develop. So at the beginning you just have a little bit. And then there's a little bit. Maybe it's just a tiny piece of ice. But before we can see a lot at the top, we need to have a lot of time. And what's interesting is there's a lot more at the bottom than at the top. So if we see the bottom as understanding a language, it's sort of invisible. If I'm speaking to you, you understand, but nothing really happens on your face. I don't really know if you're understanding or not. But it's inside. And to speak is outside. So that's like the top bit of the iceberg. So before we can have a lot on the top, we need to have a lot at the bottom of the iceberg. And so the children have to absorb a lot, and then they give a little bit. And they have to absorb a lot, and then they give a little bit more. And then they absorb a lot, and then they give a little bit more. And that's the same for every day, but also every week, every month. So this process of them absorbing the language will take a long time. And so if at the beginning we don't see anything, you're speaking to them like the bunnies, or even a 3-year-old child, if at the beginning we're speaking and we don't see anything, maybe we think nothing's happening. Maybe we think they're not learning anything. But we know that when a child is born, doesn't speak any language. And later, the children can speak. So something has happened between them being born and not speaking, and them getting older and speaking. And the first thing that happened was not them speaking. The first thing that happened was them understanding and listening. So that's kind of this theory, is that there's all of this growth underneath before we see anything at the top. But if you're in a boat, even if you can't see the the ice on the top. The bottom can be very dangerous. It can be really big before we notice anything. So we must have the confidence and the patience to keep talking even if we don't really see a difference. Because actually something really big and really important is happening. Lots and lots of learning is happening. And there are many techniques that we can use. So we can repeat words. Also, it's important to try to use sentences. So I can repeat maybe the word. I can say, would you like some water? Water. But it's also important to say the sentence, because otherwise we don't want to just teach words, we want to teach sentences, because that's how we talk to each other. And that's what parents do when they talk to their children. So yes, this is a foreign language for many of our children, but they will learn it in the same way as they learn any language at this age. And so a parent will speak in sentences and will repeat words and will ask questions, because the younger children don't know how to ask questions. So they're like, oh, which one? Like, do I want this one or do I want this one? Oh, I want this one. So we're hearing, I said 3 sentences, and I kind of asked the question and then they answered it. So we must use natural language, and we can use that energy that you were talking about to use baby words. You don't really use baby words, but we can have that sort of cute energy a little bit, especially with the younger children. And that's how they learn. So very different to teaching at university or even primary school. But it's the most natural way, and you get the deepest foundations like this. And a deep foundation will really help learning languages. If you wanted to build a house, you have to dig first and build a foundation. Do you understand foundation? How do you say foundation?
Of the house.
Yeah.
地基.
So,
Basic.
the
地基就是
So that's the foundation. So before we build the house, we have to start with the foundation. If you don't build the foundation, you can't build a strong house. Probably in a house the foundation is smaller and the house is bigger. But with an iceberg, the base is bigger and the top is smaller. And that's how it is with language. Everyone, even you, even me, at our age, we understand more than we can say. If we don't understand it, there's no way we can say it. But there'll be many words that maybe my friends use that maybe they're not my words. Maybe I'll use a different word. I mean, I understand what they say. I can use different words to explain the same thing, but so I will understand more than I use at my age. So of course, a very young child, it will be the same. It's the same principle. It's impossible for the iceberg to be the other way around. It can't really be like a house where the house is bigger than the foundation. The understanding has to be bigger. Does that make sense? So the other thing is just to use very, very natural language. At the beginning you might have I'm the teacher attitude, but actually just talk to them. Just talk to them. And if it sounds more natural, it's a little bit more relaxing, and that's how they'll learn. Always remember your body language. If you can have gestures like Makaton, or something to say food, that will help the children. And just remember where you're looking. Because if I'm looking at you the whole time and I'm talking about the water, it's maybe more difficult than if I'm looking at the water, saying, would you like some water? It makes it so much easier to explain to a child. The other thing is when we're talking to children, we want to be at the same height. So if a child is sitting, we don't want to be standing. That creates not a comfortable relationship. It's not natural. It makes the child feel not so relaxed and open. And we learn best when we're relaxed and open. So we try all to sit at the same level or to get down to their level. They will listen to you and look at you much more if you're at the same level. And if I'm like this, it's not very nice. Maybe not in the bunnies, but maybe some older children, maybe they'll say something to you in English. That's very normal. That's okay. Just repeat it in Mandarin. So maybe they ask you a question, so you can just repeat the question in Mandarin, and then you can answer the question. Because as you were saying, Juan, it's very nice for a child to ask a question. It's great if we can teach them how to ask a question. That will make communication so much easier.
So that if they ask us a question in English, and we repeat her or his question in Mandarin, but they didn't get the answer, do we need to answer in English then?
No, please never speak to them in English. So if they ask you a question, you repeat it in Mandarin and then you answer, and then maybe they don't understand.
Yeah.
Probably they don't understand, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is at the beginning of the program for us.
No.
But if they don't understand, then we try to use gestures. We try to show them the answer. If they really don't know, because maybe they ask you something and then with your body language you can show them, or you can take them somewhere. Or if, I don't know, if you have an example of a question that maybe they ask and they don't understand.
Yeah, but sometimes if other teachers are busy, so you get very anxious if you can't answer their questions. And they don't want to set up the good relationship with you, and next time they will go to ask other teachers instead of asking you first. So it's kind of stress for me. So it is like a dilemma for me. But I will remember your policy, Mandarin first.
For example, if we have a Turkish child, nobody speaks Turkish at the nursery at the moment. Before we had some teachers who could speak Turkish. It wasn't one of our official languages, but we had a teacher who could speak Turkish. But normally we don't have anyone who can speak Turkish. We still have to look after this child, even though we are unable to speak to them in Turkish. If we have a Chinese child, and we probably have one or two in the nursery, like you got them. If the Chinese child goes to an English teacher and speaks to the teacher in Chinese, what is the English teacher going to do? They can't speak Chinese. So they have to answer in English. And if the Chinese teachers are in the park, for example, the teacher has no choice but to say it in English. And if the child doesn't understand, the child doesn't understand. So you do speak English, but when you're with the children, in your head, pretend you don't speak any English. So it's good that you understand, that makes it much easier. But you really should speak to them in Mandarin all the time. If a child speaks to me in Mandarin, what am I going to do? I'm going to speak to them in French, because I speak to the children in French.
And about the language, I have a question I want to ask. At the beginning, when I come to the nursery, the first day, the nursery teacher, they told me we have 4 children. Their parents don't like them to speak Mandarin, but we have policy, we have to speak Mandarin to them. But when I speak Mandarin to the full of them, other teacher will say, no, you can't speak Mandarin to them. And then I think I should speak as least as possible. Yeah, but the other teacher will say, oh, you're unfair to them. What should I do?
So I think that might have been more at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because we introduced Mandarin and it was new. We had already children in the nursery and we did a consultation. So we did a survey, do you understand survey, with the parents and asked if they wanted us to do Mandarin. And most parents were very excited. A few parents were a little bit nervous. Some people don't like change.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the change is. They go, I like this, I don't want it to change. Maybe you go to your favorite restaurant and you have your favorite dish, and then they say, oh, we're going to add some chili to it, or we're going to add some
something different. And you go, but that's my favorite, why are you changing it? So at the beginning we had some parents who were a little bit like that. They go, I really like this. I don't really want you to change it. This is great. I don't really want change. And I think we had maybe 4, for example, we had some, and they were very nervous. But for all our new children, they know that we do Mandarin now. So I think this was a temporary problem. And I think probably those parents, maybe we need to ask them again, I think probably those parents are now confident and they understand that everything's fine.
Yeah, and the 4 children who don't speak Mandarin, they learn Mandarin so fast. It's amazing. And the parent says, "Oh, my children sing Mandarin songs at home every day." Yeah.
Do you still do a difference with those children or?
No.
And the parents are fine. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
I think the parents were just nervous. And I think for most of those children, if I'm right, they had already many languages.
Yeah.
They
At
were
least 3.
They had at least 3 languages. And I think that parents were nervous about having a 4th language. But actually the opposite is true. When you have more languages, the children find it easier to learn a 4th language. The 2nd language is easier than the 1st. The 3rd language the more you do, the easier it becomes. So I'm not surprised that especially the children that had the most languages and the parents were the most nervous actually found it very easy.
Yeah.
I think that's actually not a coincidence.
Yeah, and one of the 4 children is a boy. One day he said, "I want more milk, please." And he said, "Encore 牛奶, please." 牛奶 in Mandarin is milk. Encore 牛奶, please.
Oh, 3 languages in one sentence. So cute.
And that's also important because it's not unusual for children to mix languages in a sentence. That's normal. We don't worry about it. We hope that with time they won't mix the languages. And that's another reason why we have the 1 person, 1 teacher, 1 language policy. If they see you mixing languages, like sometimes 1 language, sometimes another language, it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to separate Mandarin, English, French. And then you were saying like at the beginning the teachers can get frustrated.
Yeah, and they also, like French teachers, sometimes they also have to use English to explain.
Exactly.
That's the thing, only the English teachers always speak English.
Yeah.
Because they don't speak another language. It's easier for them.
The French teachers are not supposed to.
And we also communicated about that. But they said we are not allowed to speak English, but sometimes it's easier for them to explain to the children during the circle time.
So do you remember at the beginning of the training, I said it's very important that we're role models.
Yeah.
And we're not always perfect. So I'm a little bit sad to hear that the French teachers sometimes use English. But I also know we're not perfect. So it's really not great, and I would ask you to please, please, please not use English. Also, if the children hear you speak some English, they don't have to make any effort to listen to you in Mandarin because they know if it's important, you'll say it in English. And if it's not important, then they don't really need to listen to you. So it'll make it much harder for them to learn. So maybe it's easier now, but later it makes it more difficult. I suppose if it was exercise, maybe it's easier for me not to eat healthy food and not to exercise. Today maybe I'm tired, maybe it's easier to have a snack and some chocolate. But there's a consequence to that. Consequences are not going to be so fit and healthy, and probably I'm going to be more tired because I'm not healthy. If I'm not healthy, I'm going to be more tired. And it's a little bit like that with language. Like maybe it's a little bit easier if you use some English today, but actually it's going to make it harder for you during the year. And remember, for children, children are used to not being able to do things and not being able to understand. It's probably more frustrating for the teacher. You're worried for the child, but probably the child's off. Like if you haven't seen it yet, you will see it soon. A child can cry and then laugh. So a mood can change quickly. So maybe the child is frustrated now,
but in 10 seconds, it's not a problem. So relax. Okay, they don't understand, I'm a little bit frustrated. It's fine. It's fine. You know, you have to walk before you can learn to run. You can't run straight away. And maybe with the English, we're trying to help the child to do what they need to do. But first we have to slow down and just be patient and remember the iceberg. Even if this conversation is frustrating and they don't understand, they're still hearing some words. And children want to be able to improve. So that frustrating experience also teaches the child, these words are important. If I want to communicate, I have to understand what she's saying. There's a reason for me to learn and to pay attention. If we always bring all the food and all the toys to the child, if we let the child just sit, maybe the child will take much longer to learn to walk because they have everything that comes to them. But instead, sometimes they want to reach and they can't. So they're really motivated to get up and reach. It's the same with the Mandarin. Sometimes you have to let the child feel frustration so that they make an effort to grow and to learn. So a little bit of science, very little bit. So you might have to help me with the word synapse. Synapse is what we have in the brain.
突触，就是突触，对，那天培训的那个。
哦，中文的哦，突触，对，哦，那个，对呀，
好像是不是有个 S， sorry。
So for me, this is an amazing scientific piece of information. Every second, so in 1 minute there are 60 seconds, every second a child's brain will create between 700 and 1,000 new synapse connections in their brain. For me, that's just amazing. Every second, 1,000 new connections. And it's just, this is why children learn so quickly. At the beginning, they come out and they don't know how to walk, they don't recognize anything. And by the time they go to school, they can walk, they can run, they can jump, they can talk, they can laugh. They learn so much. And the reason they can learn so much is that the brain is making all of these new connections. So 1,000 connections each second means that they're every second seeing a lot of information. And each time they see it, there's a new connection. And so when they have a lot of the same connections, for a new word, for example, then they're able to use it. Now we don't see, I can't see a new connection being made in a child's brain. A big machine can see it, but I can't see it. So it goes back to a frustrating moment when you're trying to communicate to a child or a younger child and you don't see anything happening. Every second there are 1,000 new connections in their brain. So it's important that we talk. We want to keep the balance to not interrupt and lose the concentration, but it's just important that you use the Mandarin and you let them learn. So the other thing is that children love to understand the world. So they really like routine. There is something very satisfying when you think, I think this is going to happen, and then it happens. That is really exciting and satisfying for a child. And they want to have that feeling a lot. When they have that feeling, there are hormones that are released in the body, a little bit of dopamine, which is a little bit addictive. It's a little bit like a drug, and it's very satisfying. When we're older, we also have this feeling. If, I don't know if you use Facebook or there must be some other app. If you look and there's a little dot to say you have a message, it's very satisfying. You kind of hope there's going to be one. You look, there isn't one, it's disappointing. You look, there is one, you're very satisfied. That's dopamine. It's addictive. It's a natural hormone that the body creates. There's an expectation, and when the expectation is met, boom, you get a little release of dopamine. It's very satisfying. And the reason we have that is that we have evolved to want to learn. In the history of human evolution, the reason we have this is that it helps us learn. That there's an expectation, there's a thinking, and when we're right, we're very happy. So it makes us want to think ahead and plan and understand the world. So that's the kind of brain kind of hormone link that makes us want to learn. And so it's the same with children. And routine makes that easier for children, because it's easier for them to predict what's going to happen and then feel satisfied. So children really feel very comfortable when it's like that. If there is no routine and everything is changing all the time, it can be, they don't have any dopamine, they don't have any satisfaction hormone, and that's not good for them. Their stress goes up, they'll cry more. So that's why we use routine so much. Routines can change, and change is also good. Well, it's important, and we do also know how to adapt. But that process is a slower process than the dopamine expectation routine. So if we change, we try to change slowly. Like when we have a new child who starts at the nursery, we do a few hours and then a little bit more and a little bit more. So they're expecting to be at the nursery, and then they are at the nursery, and then they have time to get used to it and enjoy it. But so this idea of repetition is really important. And one of the things you can do, of course, is use similar sentences. So saying hello regularly. If you say hello to them, ni hao, every morning to them, they will expect you to say it. And when you say it, it's satisfying. They think, I've seen your face, you've seen my face, now you're going to say ni hao. And then you say ni hao. And they get the dopamine, and it's very satisfying. So that's also why we repeat phrases. Sometimes we can say the same sentence 2 or 3 times, and they know, here's the sentence, she's going to say it again, she said it again, she's going to say it again, she said it again. Very satisfying. Really, really satisfying for the child. And that satisfaction means that those synapse connections, the thousands of connections in the mind, they happen. So it's satisfying and it's creating the connection at the same time. So repeating things to children is really important, and having some sort of routine is really important as well. So we have that combination of the routine and something new. If it's just routine, there's a limit to what we can learn. So the activities we do change. Also, children get bored. So they might have one energy, and then their energy changes, and then they're in a different mood and they want to do something different. So during the day we change, and we try to let the children choose the type of activity where possible. So often we have different activities in the room at the same time, and the children can choose what they do. We don't decide for you. When they're older, we decide, now everyone is going to do maths. Now everyone is going to do science. Today, I'm sorry, you've not had much choice. I told you what I want to tell you. I tried to give you space, but that is not great for young children. So some things they have no choice. Probably most things in their life they have no choice. They did not choose to come to nursery, their parents chose for them. They did not choose what food we cooked. They did not choose what song we're singing. So many things in their day, they have no choice and no power. Quite similar to adults, but even more. So what is nice is to give them choice over the activities. That's very satisfying for them. And it works better. Some activities are a bit quieter, some are a little bit more active, some might be more creative. And if they are in the mood to move more, then it's good. Maybe they can do a construction activity. If you have, for example, a boy with a lot of energy right now, and you try to get him to sit down to look at a book, maybe it works. maybe it helps calm the child down. But maybe it doesn't work at all because he has this energy that he needs to use. So to get children to calm down, often songs are a bit better because you can use your energy if you have it, but you become part of the group at the same time. But so we try to give children some choices as well. So those choices and the changing activities is the change, and the rest is the routine. So you'll notice there's a balance of change and routine. There was a really amazing study done by some educational specialists, and it was comparing how many words a child hears between when they're born and when they're 3 years old. So the first 3 years of their life. And it did it by recording the conversations at home between parents and their children when they're babies. And it looked at different types of families. So we had some poor, uneducated families, and at the other end we had university professor, very clever, very educated families. And it did some analysis, and it recorded the number of words, not different words, but the number of times words were said. So if I say 1111, it's 1111, they counted like that. And between 0 and 3, the difference between the uneducated families and the educated families, the number of words that they heard, the difference was 30 million. How do you say 30 million?
3000万
In 3 years. So, which child do you think is going to be able to speak more? The one who's heard 30 million words more, or the one who has heard 30 million words less? It's incredible, huh? So, you might be shy, you might be frustrated sometimes if they don't understand, but we have the choice to help them hear lots of words. So one great way is to say sentences and not just the minimum, and the other is just to repeat it. So we don't want to go crazy, and we don't want to interrupt them all the time, but we also want to speak to them. Yeah? Do you have any questions about my science?
I do agree with that. speaking more, and for example, to me, learning English is this. I have the experience of learning English. As the first week I arrived here, I just listen and I seldom to speak and absorb. I do not. I'm afraid to speak more, and I have no confidence. But after 2 weeks, I can speak. I try to speak, and I absorb more information, and just so I feel after 2 weeks I make a progress, and this progress is much huge than I was in China. When I was in China, maybe I have to spend 1 month or 2 months then, but here, because I absorb I accept too many words and sentences every day. So that's why if we want to learn a language, we have to set ourselves in the language environment. So our Chinese teacher, we have to speak more Chinese. So just try to don't. Sometimes we can hide the English. Yeah. Great.
One way you can do it as well is to describe what you're doing. So I can say, oh, my glass is empty. I'm going to give myself some more water. It's just an easy way to add language when I'm doing something. Maybe you're preparing an activity. Say, oh, let's put a new activity on the table. Let's clear the table. Now I'm putting the glass on the table. I'm putting wouldn't be a computer, but whatever you're doing in the classroom, you can just describe what you're doing. That's another way you can just talk. It's natural. it's quite satisfying. So a question? No. Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll take a little break in a few minutes. But just before, I just want to check, is there anything that you want to talk about? I know you've heard the language policy many months ago when we were doing the training. How is it? Like the theory and the reality? Maybe in Chinese you can just... Is it exactly like I describe it, or just have a little bit?
觉得怎么样？理论和实践，
嗯
理论和实践有没有什么相冲突的地方？我们之前的培训觉得还是一致的吗？
大体上是一致的，但是在细节的落实上，因人而异吧。对。然后，因为，理论是固定的，但是现实生活中有很多情况，所以我们要，那个怎么说？随机应变。
但是还是应该要坚持理论才可以。
坚持理论。
随机应变。
坚持原则。
我们首先需要坚持原则，对，然后根据现实情况随机
调整。
社会里面。
对，因为毕竟理论和现实还是具体情况具体分析嘛。对，但你还是要记住。
马克思哲学，马哲。
哲学呢，我理解。
philosophy。
理论是基础。对呀，像是对。还有什么？好像没什么了啊。
Okay. Okay.
对吧？是这个。
Yeah, finished.
Okay, great. Perfect. Let's take a little break.
去个洗手间。